The silence of the ancients and the noise of modern times. Imagine waking up in silence. No notifications, no sounds, no emails, no invisible pressure. Only the morning air, the sunlight streaming through the window, and the feeling that time belongs to you. Today, that sounds almost impossible. We live trapped by screens, addicted to stimuli, connected to the entire world, and, at the same time, disconnected from ourselves. The modern world has turned distraction into a lifestyle, and perhaps, Stoicism is the answer we left behind in the past. Seneca wrote nearly 2,000 years ago, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He never knew a smartphone, yet his words perfectly describe what happens today. We do not have little time. We have all the time there is, but we hand it away in small doses to notifications, messages, comparisons, and digital anxieties. The mind, which once sought wisdom, now seeks dopamine. Stoicism then arises as a kind of antidote, an ancient philosophy for a new problem. The Stoics believed that true freedom lies not outside, but within. It is not about controlling the world, but about controlling our reactions. Epictetus said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about things." Today, that phrase sounds prophetic. The Instagram feed, the opinions on Twitter, the judgments in the comments, everything seems to affect us. But in truth, it is not what people say that hurts us. It is the value we give to what they say. Stoic philosophy reminds us, nothing can hurt you unless you allow it. We live in a time when it is easy to appear wise and hard to be wise. When it is easy to post about balance, but hard to find it. When it is easy to share quotes from Marcus Aurelius, but almost impossible to apply them. And yet, that is exactly why Stoicism is so relevant again. Because it is brutally practical. It is not about escaping the world, but about facing it with clarity and calm. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote to himself in his journals, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Imagine the power of that phrase in a world where our thoughts are shaped by algorithms. What we consume, what we believe, what we desire, all of it is pushed into us, shaping our minds in silence. Without realizing it, we become the result of what we feed our phones. And as the modern Stoic Ryan Holiday said, "Reading is what others have thought. Scrolling is what the algorithm wants you to think." If the Stoics lived today, they probably would not flee from technology. They would use it wisely. They would know that the problem is not the phone, but us. Stoicism never blamed the world. It always called us to personal responsibility. Epictetus said, "You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you respond." That includes what happens inside your screen. You do not control the videos that appear in your feed, but you control whether you click. You do not control criticism, but you control whether you respond. You do not control the chaos of the world, but you control your own center. Seneca warned about voluntary distraction. He saw people wasting their lives chasing status, parties, fame. Today, we just changed the scenery. We no longer run through the streets, but through stories. And the cost is the same. Life slipping away, he wrote. Life is long enough and sufficiently generous for those who know how to use it well. Think about that for a second. We do not need more time. We need more presence. The phone is an extraordinary tool. It connects us, educates us, gives us access to the world's knowledge. But it is also a subtle trap, a prison of distraction built on instant rewards and infinite loops. And the solution is not to turn everything off, but to recover inner mastery. Because, in the end, that is what Stoicism is about, mastery of oneself. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, and political betrayal. Yet he wrote about serenity. If he could remain calm in the midst of a burning empire, can we not put our phones down for an hour? He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the essence of Stoicism. And it is also the opposite of what modern society teaches us. The world says, you need to control everything. Stoicism replies, you only need to control yourself. But mastering yourself is the greatest of all challenges. Because to do that, we must first observe ourselves. And observation requires silence. A kind of silence that the modern world has destroyed. Seneca spoke of withdrawing into oneself. Today, few can go 10 minutes without picking up their phones. We are incapable of being alone with our own thoughts. And that is the first sign of mental slavery, he said. Nothing is more miserable than one who is always busy. We call it productivity. But perhaps we are just running away from the inner void. Stoicism teaches that life is not about eliminating suffering, but about giving it meaning. Marcus Aurelius saw each difficulty as a test of the soul. Epictetus, who was born a slave, believed pain was training for virtue. Seneca, exiled and betrayed, said adversity reveals who we truly are. These men lived in harsh times, yet left behind a legacy of serenity. And today, even in a comfortable world, we are emotionally collapsing because we have everything except purpose. Stoic wisdom is simple, yet transformative. Control what depends on you, accept what does not, use reason to guide emotion, seek virtue above pleasure. It is curious how this applies to technology. Most of our frustrations come from what we cannot control, others' opinions, the algorithm, comparison, but we can control the time we give to it, and that is already freedom. The modern world tries to convince us that we must react to everything, but Stoicism says the opposite. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every news item needs your opinion. Not every notification deserves your time. Seneca would say we are consuming our souls with trivialities, and perhaps silence is the new form of wisdom. The true Stoic challenge today is not to live without pain, but to live with focus. Not to turn off the world, but not to get lost in it. And it begins with a simple gesture. Observe before reacting. Imagine if, before replying to an impulsive message, you breathed. If before opening Instagram, you asked yourself, why? If before comparing yourself, you remembered, the only fair comparison is with who I was yesterday. That is the power of applied philosophy. Stoicism not as theory, but as living practice. We live in an age where knowledge is infinite, but wisdom is rare. We have never had so much access to information, and we have never been so confused. And perhaps the problem is not excess data, but lack of direction. Because without a philosophy to organize the mind, the modern world becomes a chaotic sea, and we, just castaways scrolling the feed. Epictetus said, "No wind is favorable to those who do not know where they are going." Today, the winds are trends, memes, fashions. We jump from one to another, believing we are moving forward, but in truth, we are just spinning in circles. Stoicism offers a map, an inner axis, a reminder that direction matters more than speed. Seneca warned that the greatest human tragedy is to live as if immortal, and that is exactly what we do when we waste hours on distractions that do not move us. We live as if time were infinite, and only notice its scarcity when it is gone. Every minute spent without awareness is a piece of life that will not return. He wrote, "While we delay, life passes. In the digital world, we delay everything. Deep conversations, old dreams, important decisions. We fall asleep to instant rewards, while real life passes by the window." Stoicism does not ask you to abandon the world. It asks you to be present in it, to take part in society, but not lose yourself in the crowd, to use the phone, but not be used by it, to be connected, but conscious. Stoic philosophy is, above all, a philosophy of presence. And presence is not just being physically somewhere, it is being fully there. When you eat, just eat. When you speak, just speak. When you are silent, just be. That simplicity is revolutionary. Marcus Aurelius said, "You lose only the time that you spend in indecision," and the modern world is built on indecision. We scroll endlessly, unable to choose what truly matters. We consume content without digesting it. We seek stimulation, not understanding, and that weakens us mentally. The Stoic mind is like a muscle. The more you train it with focus and reflection, the stronger it becomes. But when you feed it with distractions, it becomes lazy, reactive, confused. Practicing Stoicism today is an act of resistance. Resistance to noise, haste, and superficiality. Imagine for a moment that Marcus Aurelius had an Instagram account. He would see hateful comments, attacks, comparisons, but what would he do? Probably write the same thing he wrote 2,000 years ago. Choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. That phrase is not a denial of pain, but an invitation to awareness. He knew the world is full of injustice and provocation, but reacting with anger is handing power to the other. To be stoic is not to be cold, it is to be free. Epictetus used to tell his students, when something irritates you, remember, this is only a test. And perhaps we should apply that every time the digital world throws us off balance. The internet is the greatest test of patience and self-control in history. It constantly offers triggers, envy, comparison, anger, desire, and Stoicism is the shield that protects us from all of it. Each time we resist the impulse to react, we strengthen character. Each time we choose silence over an impulsive reply, we gain strength. Each time we set the phone aside to look at the real world, we recover time and presence. Seneca said, "Hasten to live well, and think that each day is, in itself, a whole life." That phrase has the power to change our relationship with time, because time is not just something that passes, it is what we are while it passes. And if we do not care for it, we lose it in invisible trades. Seconds traded for notifications, hours traded for distractions, days traded for nothing. Stoicism invites us to a deliberate life. To wake with purpose, act with clarity, speak with intention, to live as if each moment were the last, not with despair, but with gratitude. Deep down, what we seek in our overuse of the phone is something the Stoics also sought, meaning, the difference is, they looked inward, we look outward. They sought the tranquility of the soul. We seek instant validation, but ironically, the meaning is still in the same place, inside us. It is just harder to hear now, because there is too much noise. The philosopher Pierre Hadot, a scholar of Stoicism, said that ancient philosophy was a spiritual exercise, not merely a system of ideas. To be Stoic was to live the philosophy, not quote it. And perhaps that is our mistake. We have turned wisdom into aesthetics. We speak of inner peace, but live at war with notifications. To be Stoic today is to dare to slow down. To look at your phone and ask, does this serve me or enslave me? To resist the culture of haste, to choose depth over quantity, to understand that calm is an act of courage. Epictetus taught that we must train the soul just as we train the body. And in the modern world, that training begins with small actions, turning off notifications, setting aside time for silence, choosing content that elevates instead of distracts, responding with reason, not impulse. With each of these choices, we become a little more masters of ourselves. Seneca wrote, "He who is master of himself is the most powerful of all men." Think about that. In a world where everyone seeks power over others, true power is power over oneself. The power not to be easily offended, not to compare compulsively, not to react automatically, to be present, even when everything pulls your attention away. That is the power Stoicism offers. Not political power, but spiritual power. Not the power to dominate the world, but to not be dominated by it. And when you begin to practice it, something changes. You realize that others' anger is not your problem, that the chaos of the world does not define your mood, that silence is a powerful response, and that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of clarity. Little by little, the noise of the world weakens, and the noise of the mind quiets. You begin to see what truly matters, and you realize that life does not need to be perfect to be good. It only needs to be conscious. Marcus Aurelius used to write at night, reflecting on the day. He knew that daily introspection was the bridge between mistake and growth. Perhaps we should do the same. Before sleeping, not open the phone, but open the mind. Ask yourself, what did I do today that was worth it? What did I allow to irritate me? What can I improve tomorrow? That simple ritual is more transformative than any productivity app, because no algorithm can surpass self-knowledge. Stoicism, in its essence, is a reminder that happiness is not something to be chased, it is something to be practiced. And that practice begins now. The next moment the phone vibrates, the next time the mind wants to react, the next choice between distraction and presence, you can choose to be led by the world, or to lead yourself. And that choice defines everything. Seneca would say, life is not short, but we make it so. So perhaps the question we should ask is not how much time do we have, but how are we using the time we have? Because, in the end, it is not the phone, nor technology, nor the modern world that steals our peace. It is us. When we forget what truly matters, and when we remember, everything changes. The mind slows down, the heart finds rhythm, and the silence, which once seemed empty, becomes full of meaning. Stoicism is not a philosophy of the past. It is a map for the present, a call for lucidity amid chaos, a reminder that wisdom lies not in quick answers, but in the right questions. And perhaps, deep down, the most stoic question of all is this: what is truly within my control, right now? Breathe, observe, respond calmly, and continue. Because, as Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And perhaps, in the midst of this noisy world, the Stoic soul is the one that chooses to think in silence.